Hey everybody, Damian Questiny here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. All right, let's talk about something fun in remote viewing called the timeline management matrix. Okay, timeline management is really cool because you can create different timelines, say like 3 to 5 timelines, which each one of these has a very specific goal in which you want to reach at the end of it. And what you do is you use trends and markers in order to maneuver inside of those timelines, and we call those variants. So you put a different variant in each timeline. So you can have, like 100 different variants in a timeline, because each one of those variants you put in markers in order to maneuver the energy into a given direction. So the markers are like walls that you put in, or regulation, or laws, or principles that exist within those timelines as markers in order to maintain the focus of energy into a given direction and path. Now, this works on the individual level, and it works on the population management level too. So this is how you can apply remote viewing techniques and practices to achieve target accuracy. In other words, to achieve the conclusion and the manifestation of each target. Now, the trends are your cause and effect. And your cause and effect is your inflection points and how you change the narrative in your target. So if you're focused on one particular aspect, you need to have some mechanism in order to look in a different direction, so to speak, or at least to cause the energy to change its course. And sometimes it takes a lot of energy to do that, by the way, in remote viewing. Sometimes you really got to push hard in order to get your focus off of a certain direction and path. And in fact, there's terms for this. They're called analytical overlays. It's like a flood of information that comes in, and then your mind just tries to immediately make sense of it. And so it puts together a conclusion based on impressions that are very limited at best. And so you get these analytical overlays, or these big bursts of data detail. But you have to put those off to the side when you're in the matrix itself, especially when you're building timelines. So the trends are the cause and effect mechanism behind it. So that way you can maneuver inside the targets. Now, everything in this system requires payment for this, by the way. And the payment for this, if you want to put your tinfoil hat on, is karma. So that's why you got to be very, very careful on what you want to remote view. You got to be very, very careful on what you want to intune yourself to, dial into like a phone number. Now, building an event matrix is different than building a sensory matrix. And the sensory matrix is the one you hear about most often in remote viewing. And that's really in line with the impressions, expressions, and the production of the target details. What I'm talking about with an event matrix is you are positioning yourself for a procedure in which you want to reach a certain goal or a certain target, and that will take time in order to do that. So it's more long-term in nature, as opposed to the sensory is immediate. Okay? And what you're doing with event matrix is you actually are building a timeline in order to provide pressure points. So if your energy starts straying because over distance you lose energy and consistency, so what you do is you have events that take place within that matrix to keep you on focus. All right? So it's more about the procedure than it is about the production. It's more about time in the event matrix as it is about space in the sensory matrix. So these same principles, regulations, and laws can be applied on the macro scale and on the micro scale. So the individual can use these to benefit themselves, and also the macro scale where you can have lawmakers use these to benefit themselves. And how that would work is you have an event that takes place which gets the attention put on a certain subject or idea. And then you allow that subject to be focused on by the population, for example. And then you offer your solution, which would be in the form of a law. And the law is designed to stop people from going outside of certain boundaries. It keeps their attention focused in a direction, in an area. So if you want to implement, I don't know, involuntary mental health screenings, mandatory mental health screenings, then you have events take place in which you can allow that discussion to blossom. And then you already have the solution ready to go because you are involved with the event matrix, because you have a very specific goal in which you want to reach, but you have to get the energy to move in that direction. This is one of the ways that you can do that on a macro level. Again, but you can do this on a micro level too. For example, you can position yourself to accumulate all this energy by the knowing where the production is going to be moved next. You hear me on this channel talk about cryptocurrencies, and I'm heavily involved with cryptocurrencies because I know that's where the energy is moving. I know that that's where all the activity is starting to form based on the trends matrix formula that I'm discussing here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Don't want to make this video too long, but I wanted to give you an idea on the difference between an event matrix and a sensory matrix, but also how you can use this to obtain your goals and reach what you're aiming for. But you have to know what you want. And once you know that, you can build a structure in order to make that manifest in your life. Thanks for listening. Cheers.